think we can't ignore the fact that Trump was more or less trying to channel Bernie, and it worked. And channeling the fact that there really is a huge problem, this disconnect, and how removed the elites really are. I don't think Wasserman Schultz was ever given the proper responsibility that should be on her shoulders for Trump becoming president, because her actions over the 6 years that he was the head of the DNC, there was also,
and Obama did that, by the way. That was Obama's choice to make her the head.
Well, here's the thing.
That's what I kept saying in 2016. I'm like, look at the party that lost to this guy. I mean, how do you lose to this guy?
And think about how many people that are still in power that were a part of that. Like, there's never been, and I've always said,
there's never been a reckoning.
There's never been a reckoning for what the party did to Bernie Sanders. And one of the things that I still think is one of the reasons why there's so much hysteria these days about the validity of our elections. Listen, we all know corruption exists, but there is becoming sort of this complete distrust, whether it's with COVID vaccines, whether it is with elections. People are seeing the disintegration of the system happen. And I still think that the moment that this happened was when they cheated Bernie out of the nomination and no heads rolled. They basically said, oh, well, we'll remove Wasserman Schultz from the head of the DNC. No, you shouldn't be in any position of power for the rest of your life.
Well, the same thing, and this, to be fair, the same thing happened to the Florida Democrats. There has not been, no one has really flushed the toilet of the. Yeah, you can change. Okay, we have a new head of the Florida Democrats. Fine, whatever.
He's a Republican.
He's gonna raise money. He's gonna. Well, that's. I think I tweeted that. I'm like, it's exciting that the head of the new head of the Florida Democrats is a Republican, which, by the way, is not a terrible idea because this is a Republican state. So that, and I've been saying it's a red state for years. Even when we were a purple state, I was saying we were, and we're not really a purple state. Let's be honest. We are America's like red penis with a blue foreskin that everybody wishes we could circumcise and have a South Florida and a North Florida is the bottom line.
I always say we're the flaccid penis. We're the flaccid penis. But I never really thought of it as the blue tip to be circumcised. And that is right in so many ways. But I never thought we were purple. I always thought we were red. But what we are is there's a lot of rural, and we're very populist. So that's why we always reference that while Trump won by far, so did the $15 minimum wage, actually got more votes than Trump did, which is a sign that we have a populism basis here that could be, I think, tapped into.
I think you're right that about the channeling Bernie. 2016 was the outsider election. The Democrats decided to counter program. They said, we are going to nominate the most entrenched, the most insider candidate we could possibly, and to be fair, one of the most qualified candidates, certainly against this political novice, populist, racist lunatic. And so, and listen, it's like a 2-point conversion. If you make it, you're a genius as a head coach, and if you miss it at the end, you get second guessed for the rest of your life and career. So the Democrats decided to say, well, we're going to counter this with something rational, but they missed it. They missed the Bernie thing. They missed the Trump thing. They missed that. It just didn't compute for them, which is how I knew in the midterms that they were not going to sufficiently counter Trump. To be fair, I've been wrong about Nancy Pelosi before. I'm sure I'll be wrong about her again. But I just don't really see the Democrats as taking the necessary actions to counter what we see. And we've experienced it down here in Miami. We cover it in 537 votes. The rise of misinformation. Spanish language radio down here has been a OAN, Newsmax, Fox like propaganda machine with homophobia, racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, all Red Scare, comunista bullshit for before I was born. And that helped give rise and cover and fuel for right-wing violence, for terrorism. I mean, Miami was the terror capital of the United States from the 60s through the end of the 90s. We have about 150 bombings, missile attacks, airplane hijackings and explosions. I mean, horrific, but all to suppress dissent, particularly in the Republican community, and it really culminated in a way in an insurrection in 2000 at the canvassing board of Miami-Dade County, which you see with the so-called Brooks Brothers riot. That started on Spanish language radio. It started grassroots and it became AstroTurf. So downstairs was the grassroots, was the demagoguery, the propaganda. That was downstairs. Upstairs was the match slaps. All of the young Republican guard that came in, really January 6th style, created violence, created a scare through this riot inside the office of the canvassing board where they were doing the recount in the 2000 presidential election, and scared the canvassing board so much that they stopped their counting as a result, which was exactly the intention of Stop the Steal. That Roger Stone was down here doing the same shit in 2000 that they did in Washington, D.C. in 2021. So that's why I say, the Florida and particularly the Miami of today is the America of tomorrow.
Yeah, we're a real shit show down here. I mean, it's always been like that my whole life. I can't remember ever a point feeling like we weren't the center of the buffoon news universe. Like everything that could also just be absurd happens in Florida, like the craziest stuff.
And tragic. There's always a Florida connection. 9/11. There's a Florida. Bernie Madoff.
Yes. Yes.
Jeffrey Epstein. There's always a Florida connection to some insane act of fuckery nationally or internationally. It always seems that there is if not a Miami connection, usually there is some kind of Florida connection. I mean, you name the scandal or the story, and usually all roads.
Like a Kevin Bacon thing, right? Like a 6 degrees thing. Like it all ties back to Florida.
Yeah.
It all ties back to Florida.
Now, Edna Buchanan, I think, described it to me as in vivid detail as it's the shape of America that if you just kind of tilt the country, all the shit just kind of seems to just filter down eventually into Florida, right? You kind of just you tilt it, it all just kind of washes down. It's my line that I always say, that LA is where you go when you want to be somebody. New York is where you go when you are somebody. And Miami's where you go when you want to be somebody else. It's just always been a sunny place for shady people.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.